quick questions here. So one,
Sure.
what was the name of the book? The book you mentioned a couple times.
Yeah.
What was this book?
Become Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. And, what was so funny is I had no idea at the time, but he actually lived right here in Birmingham. And here we were looking for answers that were right under our nose the whole time. And and ended up becoming a mentor of ours. Like we would go to eat breakfast and lunch with him and have him to our office for coffee and things like that. So became much more than just a book or an idea, but it was, a man who had great impact on us.
So as you read this book, obviously it opened your eyes to a brand new strategy and a new approach. How did you meet Russ? And what was it about Russ that made you say, hey, I want to do this with you?
So Russ and I actually were friends first, went to church together. And for the longest time, he was the Wall Street advisor, which is even a whole nother story. But he was that guy that was separating people from their money. And he realized in 2008, he didn't have an answer for why everybody lost so much. And he's like, this can't continue, there's got to be a different way. And so he set out on this path to figure out what that alternative was. Came across the same book at a conference, not in Birmingham, it was somewhere else. And he came back and said, man, I think you ought to read this book because I want to start referring you my mortgage clients, like people that need mortgages. And so at that time, I was like, hey, I love to get referrals. Let's do it. I'll read the book. And lo and behold, it became the thing that really helped me to see the light and look for opportunities within my own family. So anyways, it just kind of grew from a coaching mentality because he was coaching me on all the things in the book and I was putting them into play and I was realizing there's something here, like there's something really special and there's just not enough people talking about it. So I need to be a part of that movement. And so it's just a natural thing for us to work together.
Yeah. And then last question before we move on from that. You talked about, again, being the sole breadwinner for your family. What was that discussion like with your wife?
Oh, man. I sometimes mention this, sometimes don't. But I went to my wife and I was just thinking to myself the whole time, this is a bad idea. Like me to tell my wife right now, which, by the way, she was pregnant with our fourth daughter at the time. Okay. 4 out of 5. She's in there, and I'm thinking, she's going to think I'm a moron. Like, what am I, this is so risky, And I go to her, I say, hey, I really feel like God's telling me that I need to pursue this full time with Russ. And she looked at me without hesitation, John, and she said, I think you should do it. And I was like, okay, there's something here. Like, this is serious. Like she does not normally, respond like that. Now, I'll add one caveat to this that I learned just a few years ago. I went to my wife a few years ago and I said, hey, remember back when I told you, hey, I think this is what God wants me to do. And you just immediately, back me up. She's like, yeah. I said, what was going through your head? And she said, Joey, if you told me that you were going to be a garbage truck driver, I would have said you should do it. And I was like, totally deflated. Like, dang, she didn't believe in me. She just, she didn't care what I was going to say. But what she said after that was the most impactful. And it's the thing that woke me up. She said, Joey, I didn't think our marriage was going to make it. And I had been praying for years that something would give, like you would get out from under this kind of commission hamster wheel that you were on, and that you would be present with us, with our family. And I don't know about you, John, but there's somebody listening right now who is in that position and they don't even know it. Like I had no clue. I sitting there thinking I'm crushing it, like working hard, making all this money. And slowly but surely, because I'm not present and because you're not present with your family, they're slowly fading out of the picture. And I'm fortunate that God gave me the opportunity to kind of make good on that with my family. And he took me out of that position. But don't be fooled, right? do not, you need to take record of what's going on in your life right now and seek the people that are the most important to you. You know, your job and the hours you put in there, man, you've got to create freedom. And I'm not trying to preach here. I'm just telling you, like, it really impacted me to hear my wife say that.
How many years into the marriage were you when she or at the time where you told her that you were looking to move forward with Russ?
I think we were married. That would have been 2014. So right at 11 years.
11 years. And the reason I ask is I think most couples, you get to a point in your marriage where you're pretty comfortable with each other. And like you said, you kind of lock in with what you're doing. And you were, maybe on autopilot a bit, saying, okay, I'm the breadwinner. I'm going out there. I'm making money for my family. And like you said, maybe that family was drifting away. And I do think it's really important to make a mental note of where you're at, have a healthy relationship, sit down, have these conversations, because you could be 10 years into a marriage or in a relationship and be drifting apart and not even know it. And it's something that, again, my wife and I, we try to sit down and have some of the tough conversations to understand where we're at, where we're trying to get to, what adjustments do we need to make. And for us, that was really the thing that led me going into real estate full time, because we realized two working professionals, trying to raise two kids, someone's going to have to give,
Yeah.
somebody needed to have way more flexibility in their life in order to make that work. And that was the vision that got us down that path, where now we can sit there and say, okay, here's how we built something together. But you still got to check in and make sure that that plan is still on track, and make those adjustments. And we go back to, time freedom. I think that's a key thing. And, I just think a lot of people struggle with that and may not even know. So if you're listening to this and you haven't checked in with that significant other, it may be time to sit down and talk about that. With that said, you mentioned that there were 3 steps to financial freedom. What are those steps?
Yeah. So I equate it to, once you determine that you have a new destination, what do you typically do? Right. You're trying to get somewhere. I'm a simple minded guy. Take out your phone, put in your Maps app, and now you got something to put in to tell you where to go. Right. You put in that destination and all of a sudden it starts mapping exactly how to get there. And so we use the GPS model for that reason. Right. And we break it down as goal, plan, and support, GPS. And again, it starts with that goal. If you don't have a picture of what financial freedom would look like for you and for your family, which I think is fantastic for you to talk about, checking in with your spouse, like, what is it that you and your spouse have quit dreaming about? Right? What is it that you put up with? And you've said, man, I guess life just really isn't possible to have the things that I thought that we would have by this point in our life. And that there's something inside of us, especially the older we get, that starts to just kind of die. And I think it's our dreaming capability. So we actually start our whole process with what we call the passport challenge. And it helps people to build a financial passport. You start answering questions like, who do I want to be when I'm financially free? What do I want to do or stop doing when I'm financially free? And what do I want to have? And you start to answer those questions and you put visuals up to where now it lives on my desktop every day, that I can see the picture of what my financial freedom journey looks like. And it helps me to stay focused on it, right? Everybody has to have that to know exactly then the plan to get there. And in our plan phase, we talk about who you are as an investor, right? Identifying what your investor DNA, that's what we call it, investor DNA. It's a profile that you take that helps you to see, how does your personality see the world in light of what investments would be best for you? Because, to be honest, John, I think most people hear that, like, Russ and I have built over 50,000 a month in passive income, and they say, "Oh, what are you investing in? I want to invest in some of that." And you know what we say is, like, that's dangerous. Don't just invest in what we invest in who you are as an investor. And most people are like, what does that even mean? I don't even know what you're talking about. You are the most important part of the equation. Investments are a dime a dozen, right? It's which one of these are going to line up with who you are. Like, I'll be honest, we invest in short-term rentals. We have 27 short-term rentals here in Birmingham. So by the way, if you ever come here, let me know. Love for you to stay in one of our units. But there are people that have short-term rentals. One of our coaches has a short-term rental out in Dallas, Texas, and he hates it. But the thing makes more money than our best unit here in Birmingham. It drives me crazy, John. I'm like, this guy is crushing it in this one unit and he doesn't even like it because he's not a hospitable guy. He doesn't enjoy the hospitality business that it is. Great returns, but he doesn't like it. So how motivated is he to continue on with a business like that that's going to get him to financial freedom? Not very, right? So don't get distracted with the ROI or the type of investment that it is until it lines up with who you are, right? So I could probably go on and on about all the whole steps. I don't know how much you want to know, but the investor DNA, I think, is such an important part of that plan step that we really focus a lot on that.
Yeah, I want to dig a little bit more into the invest in who you are, right? First of all, we're talking about those 3 steps. You said it's the GPS process: goal, plan, support. So once you have that goal, then you devise that plan, and then you kind of support that plan with some of the actions that you take. You said that, hey, it's not about what you invest in, right? You're invested in all sorts of different things, which we'll dive into a little bit more in a moment, but it's really about investing in who you are at your core a little bit more. How do you go about identifying that? Because some people don't know what they want to invest in until they already are invested in it and realize, you know what, I really don't like this. So how do
Exactly.
you get some more clarity on that before you write that check?
So I think here's the thing: we developed it, so I'm a little bit biased, but it's kind of like a disc profile. And when you take it, it then matches up. We have a passive income matrix that goes along with it. And in that matrix, it breaks down each of about 6 or 7 passive income strategies that either the pros, the cons, and the resources of they like necessary to be successful in each one. So then what you do is you just say, okay, well, man, let's say I'm a high I personality, right? An influence driven, like bubbly, sales kind of driven person. Well, and I'll give my business partner Russ as an example. His first investment, he's a super high I. His first investment was buying a condo in a college town that was fully managed by a management company. And it was going to be this great investment. He said it was so boring. He hated it. It actually made money. It was actually a decent investment, but he did not start investing in other ones because he just didn't enjoy it. It was like he couldn't influence the outcome of it. It was literally like somebody put a rent sign, somebody rented it, it's managed, blah, blah, blah. He could care less about the thing. Now you put him in a short-term rental business and he loves it, right? He loves the ability to be hospitable to other people and to like share, hey, by the way, do you have somebody that needs a place to stay? I've got tons of places around town and I want to help with marketing to get the word out to people that, you know, that this exists and how can we influence the outcome? He loves it. Where again, it just depends on who you are. And so we use that disc profile along with this matrix. And we say, by the way, if you don't have a ton of money, like this one may not be the best fit for you, fill in the blank, you know? And so there's resources, time and money and those things that are taken, it takes to get those things off the ground. It helps you to then start to funnel down and decide, these are my top 2 that I need to focus on. And then maybe 1 is where I start to get the support, like education, coaching, and the community of people that we've built that are on the same path as you.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you're talking about what do you get joy out of as well, right? Just because it's real estate doesn't mean you're going to love it. if you don't really, want to interact with people, or maybe you do want to interact with people. So a lot of different variations there. Many of our listeners are big into apartments. This is Multifamily Insight Show. So many are either looking to buy apartments or be a passive investor in apartments. For that person who is looking to invest in apartments, what are some other things that may be a good fit for them based on the experience of yourself as well as other folks that you know that you work with?
Well, I think that you're bringing up a great point, because there's many different ways to engage in multifamily, right? There are people who are actual operators that love to actually put deals together and bird dog opportunities and underwrite the deal. And there's even people within that operation or that operator kind of mindset that have different skill sets. And I love that team basic of multifamily. But then there's the other side that doesn't happen without them. And that's the people that just don't have the time, don't have the, the impact or the bird dogging opportunities, but they have the cash and they need to get it at work. And they just would rather be completely hands off. I mean, to me, those things are all important to making this thing go. And so if you're on the side of multifamily that's just completely passive, I don't want to be, hands on. I want to completely be hands off. I have other things I'm focused on. There's tons of opportunities in that space. And we actually created a passive income mastermind for people that are high accredited investor types, 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs. I'd love if anybody wants to know more about that, you can go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/club 200. And we call it that because people are joining that mastermind to get to 200% of their expenses in passive income, right? Once 100% is done, you're financially free. But at 200%, you're just oozing generosity and opportunity for others. And so we want to build a legacy much bigger than ourselves. But things that kind of live in that space. We have people that are investing in RV parks. We have people that are investing in ATM syndications and carbon funds. We have people that are doing a done-for-you land flipping business, which is super amazing. Like we have one that we started a couple years ago that just last month it eclipsed over $20,000 in passive income per month. I mean, it keeps rising every month because we just keep reinvesting that cash right back into buying more land and flipping that for notes and so on. So, I mean, that's just a handful of things that are going on in the super passive space. But I can add more if you're more active, like you want to be the more operator, more GP side of things. There's tons more like that. I just don't want to eat up all your time today.
Hey, listen, I think it's great information, right? So if anyone does want to learn a little bit more about that, you said wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/club 200. And then if you are interested in maybe, what we were talking about before, as far as figuring out where you're at, getting that GPS process going, I know you've got wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/passport as well. So be sure to check those out, because that's a great place to start, learn a little bit more about what Joey is talking about, and figure out how do you get on that path to financial freedom today. Joey, with that said, I want to move on and talk about our round of insights. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, Joey, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
The first thing I thought of when you mentioned, you get into an investment and then you realize, I don't really like this. For me, it was the first place my wife and I bought. It was a 2-bedroom condo and we were going to live in it. And then within 18 months, we outgrew the thing because we started having our first child and we were like, man, this place is small. Like immediately it shrunk. And it was right at the turn around 2007 and we could not sell it. Like we overbought and it was terrible. And so we're like, well, let's just rent it. That thing made maybe $100 a month passive cash flow at best. It probably was negative some of the time. And I hated it because I was upside down. I wasn't making money. it just felt like this terrible, investment. I felt like such a failure. Well, fast forward to 2020. That was in 2004 when I bought that house. In 2020, after all those years of not making any money, we were like, you know what? Let's start our short-term rental business and let's try it on this condo. Since you own it already, let's just try it out. And literally the first month that it went live, that thing netted over $2,000 passive income. And I was like, jackpot, hallelujah. We finally made some money on this stupid condo. So yeah, that would be it for me.
Awesome, man. Great story. I love that. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
And I hate to be like biased, but our app is, I live on that thing constantly. So tons of resources, tons of courses, our app, and that may sound really cliche, but that's what I'm recommending.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
Become Your Own Banker is by far the head. I mean, we're going over it with our daughters right now, teaching them the book, trying to give them a head start. So believe wholeheartedly in that.
All right. Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
And to be honest, I love to spend time with the Lord every morning. Like that's my goal. I don't always do it. I wish I could say I'm super consistent. But the second thing is having breakfast with my daughters every morning, having time with them to check in before they start the day. Those are just important to me.
All right, give me your number one insight for investing.
I think I already did. And that would just be like learning who you are and making sure you have the right, proper goal, because those two things inform the investments you should make. If you don't have a goal of where you're headed, you could just pick anything. And if you don't know who you are, you're going to pick, again, you're just kind of guessing.
Yeah. All right. We're going to lighten the mood a little bit with this last question. And as a man who, if I read correctly, you've once ate a 72-ounce steak. So give me your favorite place to grab a bite in Birmingham.
Oh, man. My favorite place is a little place called Hot and Hot Fish Club. It's a great high-end dining kind of place here. They've been James Beard Award winners, and I love good food. I mean, now the 72-ounce steak was not good food. It was just a lot of food. But I highly recommend the Big Texan in Amarillo, Texas, too, if you're ever out that way.
All right. Sounds good. We like that. Now, you got to give me the backstory. Why in the world would you want to sit down to eat such a large steak in one sitting?
This is taking me back to my senior year of college. We had gone out for spring break to a friend's uncle's house in Colorado, and he was a vegetarian. And we stayed with him all week. And so he gave us nothing but vegetables the whole week. And we were just dying. And we were joking with him the whole time. And he's like, you know what you guys ought to do? You can have a meat deficiency. You should go to the Big Texan on the way back. And of course, this is internet, made everybody having access to the internet all the time. So we didn't even know where this was. He's like, just drive on the interstate. You can't miss it. We pull up to this place. It literally is, if you've ever seen it, it's crazy, like colorful, big billboards, like it will get your attention. You walk in and we're like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this thing. But it's a challenge. You go sit up on a stage with a clock behind you because you have to do this in less than an hour. And it's like an old saloon kind of feel, like with people up top looking down over you and the waiters and waitresses coming out with like all this Western gear on, so on. And literally me and my three buddies were on a table on a stage with all that going down. And they bring out this meat, but it's not just a meat, it's a dinner. You have to eat the entire 72-ounce steak, a salad, a shrimp cocktail, and a baked potato and a roll in less than an hour. If you don't eat it, and this is probably pre-inflation, it was like $55. This is 2003, John.
And you're in college.
And I'm in college. And I'm engaged to be married in like 3 months. literally, John, no lie. I'm looking at this massive plate of food in front of me, and I'm like staring at it. And it's like the first time it hit my mind, I'm like, I can't afford not to eat this. Like I don't have $55 in college just laying around that I can just spend on lunch. And so, dude, I'm just sitting there just chomping away, just chewing, cutting, chewing. And I look up and about half my steak is gone. And I look at my buddies and they haven't even, it doesn't even look like they've touched their steak. So I'm like, I'm actually doing something here. Like I got to stay focused. I get down there. I finish the whole thing in like 52 minutes. And they give me this double XL t-shirt that doesn't fit me to this day. And my name is on their website, March of 2003. Go look it up. But it was an amazing experience. I fully believe that it has messed up my intestinal tract for the rest of my life, but it was an awesome opportunity. And I'm grateful to have done it.
Well, Joey, I mean, the next logical step would have been to go compete at the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, but I guess we'll settle with your name being up on the sign there and on the website. Hey, listen, man, great information. I really enjoyed talking to you. Just to recap a couple of things that stood out to me. One is just, understanding the why. It's one thing to make good money, to be a high income earner. We learn about all that stuff in school. They tell you to go out there and get a good job. They don't tell you about how to make sure you keep your family together and you prioritize the priorities. And that's something I think is just really key for all of our listeners. You have to prioritize the priorities. And for most of us, that means family. So make sure you're spending the time with the people you love, doing the things you love, and figure out a way to get financial freedom and passive income to help you do that. You talked about a couple of strategies. Definitely make sure you check out that GPS process. The website, again, is wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. If you want to check out the Club 200, put /Club 200. If you want to check out the Passport, put /Passport. But make sure you check that out. I think some great resources that you and your team have put together there. And I also love the fact that you talked about taking that leap of faith, figuring out what it is you want to do, and making sure you understand kind of your investor DNA. Don't just buy stuff because it's a good thing to buy, but make sure it's something that actually fits who you are and what you want to be as an investor and what's going to get you excited. So lots of different investment opportunities out there. Obviously, we are very partial to apartment investing, but there are a lot of different vehicles that can help you reach your destination. And I think that's why the GPS is kind of so cool and relevant, because it's really about where you want to go as an investor. So check out the website again. It's wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. And Joey, I just want to thank you again for coming on the show today. Hope you have a good one.
It's been my pleasure, man. Thank you.